Today we have Nirit Roddy on the podcast. She's the creator of the Bikini Boss lifestyle and specializes in coaching women who don't believe in themselves or don't believe that they can achieve a physical or mental transformation. She's certified in many things. So she was a teacher for 10 years prior to becoming a fitness coach. She's certified in online training, life coaching, personal training, a whole host of things. Nirit has an interesting story because she was born in Israel and moved to the United States at 6 years old. So it's always kind of had that edge to her. And she's overcome a number of challenges in her life. She was diagnosed with hypothyroidism and went into pre-menopause in her 20s. And she had to learn how to navigate those challenges at an early age. She's very relatable in all the content that she puts out. She definitely is going to share a lot of knowledge on today's episode. We're very excited to have her on. Nirit, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, let's just kind of start from the beginning. I mean, right now you have this program, you're helping women at a very high level with their fitness, with their mindset, with their health. But again, there were many challenges that you needed to come yourself, and there's been a journey, and it's still obviously a journey yourself as well. So you obviously were born in Israel. So tell us a little bit about what things were like growing up for you.
Yeah, I was born in Israel. I grew up until I was 6 years old and then moved to the States. Lived in a one-bedroom apartment. So my older sister and I actually shared a closet. So it's very humble upbringing. We eventually moved into like a townhouse in a different neighborhood, but that is how we grew up. And I feel like all like me, my brother, and my brother was eventually born here, and my sister always kind of felt like we had something to prove. So all three of us are, always, went through challenges, and kids of immigrants understand that, especially in the beginning, you're kind of like translating, you're playing that kind of a role. So that was kind of growing up. As we got older, my parents, understood more and stuff like that. So that our childhood was a little bit different than, I guess, like most people's childhood who grew up around here.
Wow. So you were literally like living out of a closet, basically. You're sleeping in a closet. Like, holy cow, those are obviously, not necessarily the best upbringing in terms of like, maybe compared to some other people, but how did that kind of impact you? Did you just feel like that was normal growing up? Did you know any better? Did you think like, oh, we're not getting what other kids are getting, or how'd you kind of feel about it?
So I feel like, and maybe it was just how I like now that I think about it, it does seem a little crazy, but growing up, everybody around us was the same way. So I look at parenting, like then, like my parents, like, when I went to school, like nobody's parents were in school. Everyone's parents around me work full time, like both parents, at least where I grew up. So it wasn't normal for like, you know, people to be in the schools. Now I feel like, there's all these, like my kids are 15 and 11, so they're older, right? So as they were growing up, there's always like stuff in the schools. And I feel like the expectations on moms are like so big, especially on moms, like dads, if they could make it great, like they're heroes. But if moms, they're not there, like, but like, you know what I mean? So being a mom is just like so much pressure. If you're working, it's like you should be the best at work. And then if you go home, then you should also be like the best mom and at every event during the day as well. So it's just, that's how I look at it, is like, it's very challenging. I find it very challenging. And I feel like a lot of moms who come my way, that's how they, they're like, there's a lot going on for parents. And I don't feel like, at least when I was growing up, I didn't feel like my parents experienced that. They were just trying to survive.
Right, right. So how did you get into fitness?
So that's a really good question. So when I was growing up, I was like a regularly sized kid. And then in high school in eighth grade, I like started to develop, and I suddenly gained a lot of weight. And I don't think I was, eating badly. I didn't really know anything. And then I just remember, seeing other girls. It felt like, and I don't know this for a fact, but it just felt like they could eat anything they wanted. And I like couldn't. And I did start to exercise, and I would like take walks, and I would do things, and it would make me feel mentally better, with, anxiety and depression and stuff like that. It really helped me feel mentally better, but it was the same way all the way up into, college and my early 20s. Like I did, eventually figure it out. I had some years in the past, but I always was really into, fitness, like working out. The food piece came much later, but that was like, I just remember that feeling of like not feeling good enough, and also not figuring it out, like having not understanding. And then so I had like a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but like not all of it figured out. And then when I was 27, I had my first kid, Andrew, and that was like a great, I love being a mom. After I had Andrew, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and doctors were like, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna gain weight, all this stuff. And it was just very depressing. The more, like, it's like, you're like being told all this stuff just to expect it and kind of take it. And then I went into early menopause, and this is like all your friends are getting pregnant and you're gaining weight, but you can't get pregnant. It's very like mentally not a good place, like mentally, emotionally. Talking about it makes me a little emotional. And I made a decision, like, so I was really upset, like, for a long time, for months. And my husband was like, we need, like, stop, like, we can't, because we have a kid, like, we can't continue living this way. And I made a decision to, I've been as a teacher at the time, and I made a decision that we were going to adopt a child. And I love kids. Like, it wasn't like a sad decision, but it was like a hard, like, with the feeling and the hormones and all this stuff. And I made a decision to educate myself, and that I'm just not going to live this way. So just learn, educate myself, get myself like a qualified health coach, not like a health coach that's one that sells like supplements, and like, like someone who's qualified to help me, and just make lemonade out of lemons, which I think is so important in this opportunity we call life. And the rest is kind of, well, there's more, but the rest is history as far as that goes, my personal journey.
Wow. I mean, so much to unpack there. I have to imagine, right? When you're 27, you have your kid, and then you find out you can't have any more kids because of what you're going through. I mean, I have to imagine that is very difficult mentally. So, I mean, when you're in that space, like, how do you even, like, what are kind of the steps for you at that point to even, not, I don't want to say get over it, but kind of move past it, because that is very easy to hold on to, and something that is kind of that traumatic.
So there's a couple things. So one, like, we could do like some infertility treatments to like change things up. But for me personally, I'm not anti those things. Just for me, I was not, like, a lot of people have feelings about adoption. I don't. I was a teacher at the time. I could have taken like half my students home and they were 10. So it wasn't that part that was difficult. Like, going through this, like, that was not that a lot of people have a really hard time with that. That was not as hard. I think for me, it was like the body changing, and like just trying to understand what was going on. But also, like, I wanted to like make the decision to live a good life and be happy, like the happiest that I could be. And I knew that started with my health, because I know, like, that mental health and physical health go hand in hand. And like, to be like the best person, like version of myself, for myself first, and then that drops to my kids, like, and my husband. Like, my husband and I, we met in college, so we've been together since 2000, so for a very long time, almost married. It'll be 20 years this year. And he deserves that, and he's the best. Like, I'm very fortunate. And I think like how we make decisions is so important. And I always say, like, that's such an, like, we talk with our boys about that, like, if you do have a partner, make sure that they are a supportive partner, right? Like if they're, so I'm really big into that. So, it's not fair for me not to be the best version of myself for them. And I knew that. I'm like, he's Andrew's 3, my oldest, and we want to make this decision to have another baby, and this baby deserves the same thing.
Right, right. I mean, I appreciate you kind of talking through your mindset and approach at that point. And you did mention like you had gained a bunch of weight, like body was feeling less comfortable. So obviously, someone looks at you today and you obviously, look very fit. So what were kind of the steps for you after that to get back in shape?
So I think I was, I didn't just realizing that I did not know what to do. And like I had done like, silly things before, like the yo-yo, the just like cardio, like quick fixes, things like that. And I was like, you have kids now, you are grown, you're premenopausal, which means like you have to like train like that, right? You have to train and eat like a real person, like eat real foods and learn what to do with this new body in a way that works for you individually, right? Like there's not like a cookie cutter thing. So you have to go and learn this and learn it for you, right? And this is what like I try to explain to other women too, is like you go and you get on this program like Activia or whatever it is that like people find, and it says like eat here and eat here and eat here, and you can do that for a couple weeks, a couple days, a couple weeks, even like a couple months. But then when you're done with it, it's like understanding that there is no end point to this. There is no end point. There are like phases, right? There's phases where you like, it's like, I call it like turning the dial, right? Where you're going to like go a little harder than other, like you're going to go on vacation and there is no end point to this. You really have to like, first of all, learn what to do for you, right? For like where you are in your stage of life, and also follow that up with like actual science. Like you can't just be like, oh, the internet, this like follow that up, right? So like go. And so when I went to get like a coach, like I went to like an expert with like other, success stories and other people who like were all different, like not just like, I wanted to have that understanding and someone who would like, I felt heard and listened to, because this was a priority for me.
For sure.
So.
Okay. So you hired a coach yourself. So what were some of the biggest tools or things that you learned from this coach, and how did your transformation kind of go from here?
So many things. So first of all, like I said, I used to like just do like walking or light jogging or something like that. And so I'm going to highlight, like, I love being like physical and like doing cardio stuff. Like I have depression and anxiety, and that really, really helps me. But that does not help me for fat loss. It doesn't help me get strong. It doesn't help me look like this. Like that's not going to help me. So I do it for my mental health, but I learned how to efficiently and effectively get stronger, right, for fat loss and maintenance, right? Like it's not like, like I want to set myself up for success, right? So like what we do now, we need to continue to do so we are functional for the rest of our lives. Like if like I'm 40, so what I'm doing now, well, I'm older than 40, but I'm in my 40s. So like I'm set for in my 50s, for my 60s, for my 70s, for my 80s, for my 90s, right? So like people are like, oh, I'll just take a pill. I'm like, your pill is not going to help you be in that situation in your 80s and 90s. So it's like I have to be like, you have to be smart and try and like really manage your emotions. So when it comes to like training, you want to be super smart about it, right? You want to be super smart. You're like, okay, I need fat loss and I need muscles, right? Which don't interject. Like they don't, it's not against one another. They can work together, and they should. And then the food piece is like, I think in the past, I'd always looked at like what I can't have, what I can't have, what I can't have. And it was like, oh, look at what I can have. Look what I can have. Like everything fits. You just need to learn how. And I didn't understand that. But the biggest piece, and this is what I do with my women that I work with too, and just like I share, like I have a ton of free stuff, is the mental piece. Like as like you can have like the perfect workout and the perfect, like, understanding of like food. But if you don't have your shit together up here, like,
So that's actually a really good point. Like, how does someone, so mindset, right, is obviously everything, right? Someone can have the perfect plan, but if they're not mentally there, it's really challenging. So one thing that I've really noticed about you is that you always come at things from a very positive, right? Versus like looking at what you don't have, you always look at like what you do have. So obviously coming from a place of gratitude. So how does someone develop more of that optimistic view and outlook on life if they currently have more of a negative view?
So I love this question. So I don't like like people who don't know me well, probably, well, I don't think I come up. I'm super transparent. Like they might think like people like fitness people, they might think like, oh my God, we wake up and we just like want to jump out of bed and work out. Like that's maybe some fitness people do, like, I don't know, like bikini models, people like that. That's not who I am. I'm a mom. I look like a normal person, right? I don't look like, I'm not like a fitness model at all, right? But like, I have a lot going on in my life, just like everybody. I'm not special. I say this all the time, right? I have a kid with special needs, a type 1 diabetic. Like we have a lot going on in my household, just like everybody else, right? Like just like everybody else. I have older, my parent, like all this stuff. So like I don't think most people wake up and are like, oh my God, everything's great. Well, like if you like, I don't present myself that way because it's just lies. So I think just like any other thing, you have to work at your own happiness. You have to work at your managing your emotions, right? Like we have a similar coach and he talks about managing your emotions. So for me, I recommend is really talking about what do you have to be thankful for, right? Like, what do you have going for you? Because we live in America, and this is like maybe an immigrant thing for me. I understand that America is not perfect. Like, I'm no dummy, but like, we do live in there's a lot of good things about it. Is it perfect? No. Is anything? No. So like writing down and everybody has 5 minutes to write and really think about what you're grateful for. Like I tell my kids, like, and they tell me, like, I tell them all the time, I'll be like, Daniel, you're the best. Daniel, I love you. Andrew, like, and they say it back like all the time. And I have boys. Like, I think like I'm grateful for that. Like we started that, like, just that's like our family culture to just be grateful for the things that you have. And I also like, for me personally, like I like to work out if I'm going to work out that day in the morning because I don't like working out. Like, it's not like I'm like, yay, but if I get it done, it sets up my mind for the whole day. Like there's two choices, right? Like I would say you could be better or bitter. You could be, bitter or better. Like there's two choices. And I have plenty of reasons to be bitter, plenty, but it's not serving me and it's not serving my children.
I love that. Better, not bitter, right? So like you
My
said,
dad taught me that.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've clearly like obviously put a lot of work into this, put a lot of thought into this, and you've also like in your life, I can tell like had a lot of times where you've had to make big decisions on things. And one of the decisions that you made was switching from being a teacher after 10 years to being in the fitness industry. Was that a difficult decision to make? How did that decision come about to switch careers? Obviously going from a kind of the safe, steady job to, something a little bit more unknown.
Okay, that's a great question, and it's a really funny answer. So my son, my youngest was 2 years old, and my oldest was 5 or 6. And so my oldest was in kindergarten, and my youngest was in preschool. And I could tell, like, with my youngest, something was going on. So I was just going to take a year or two off and do like some personal training out of my home and like some tutoring. And then I was going to go back. Right. So it started out like it was going to like, and then it just blew up. Like I got all my certifications to go back, and I was going to go back because with teaching, they let you have a 3-year, at least where I live, they let you have a 3-year hiatus and then you can go back. So I like had planned to go back. I love teaching. First of all, I taught 5th grade for 10 years and I love the kids. I love everything about it. But then this grew. So this is an interesting story. I'd love to say like, oh, Eric's just like, completely accidental business owner. I took like I didn't go to college for business. I went to college, I have a master's in education, but I think I got coaching. And I think like I value coaching so much. If you believe in yourself, you should definitely coaching like is so like it's just action taking, action results, like you should that's what I did. And I'm so grateful. But I did love teaching. Teachers are amazing and they work so hard. I've ton in my program.
Yeah. So you're able to write, and you're obviously kind of a lot of the skills that you had as a teacher you're obviously transferring to what you are doing now as a fitness coach. Like, what are some of the skills that you learned like as a teacher that you apply to your coaching as well?
Oh, so lots. So with students, like, there's a diverse type of learners. People just learn differently. So it's the same thing with adults. So we need a roadmap, right? We need a roadmap to know what to do. And everybody's an individual. So they all need a different roadmap, right? They all need their own, like, what they need to do to get results. But then they also need a different way of learning it. So in our program, for example, we'll give like resources, but we'll also give like attention, like individual attention for how you learn, because people learn differently. Like the way you talk to them needs to be like, you have to be really intuitive for how like you're going to talk to people. Like that is like how I talk to one person is wholly different from how I talk to somebody else, because you have to like know what to say to them. It's the same with kids. It's like you have to know, you got to push people, right? Like you have to challenge people, but the way how you say things and what you say it's different depending on the personality and the person and the goals. It's so related. That's such a good question.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like you said, I mean, even though you're in a different industry, you had a master's in education. I mean, frankly, as we both know as fitness coaches, a lot of coaching is simply working on habits, is simply working on discipline, mindset, all sorts of things like that. So
100%.
obviously a lot of the skills that you develop for another industry, and this is just kind of for people, even though this is unrelated to fitness per se, like a lot of people in here are thinking like, oh, should I change my job? Should I do something else? Like there are a lot of transferable skills that you can have from what you're currently doing. Cause I'm the same way. I have a degree in journalism and I was a sports writer prior to, no, educational background in fitness either. And it is amazing how a lot of those skills can transfer regardless of what industry that you're going in.
I can see that for you because you're a really good writer.
Oh,
so
yeah. Appreciate it. But so now you're a fitness coach. Like you went from a teacher to a fitness coach, right? So next, what happened from here? How did you develop into like, you were training people and now obviously you do online coaching?
So the first like couple years I was doing personal coaching, and then like I got so busy I had to start doing like group coaching in my house, like in my basement. And I loved it. It was so fun. I loved that. But then it grew so much. And I'm like, you know what? This is only one piece of the puzzle, right? The workouts is one piece of the puzzle. And I just like as a teacher, it's like the whole individual, like there's a whole piece of the individual, right? This is only one part of it. So what I started to develop is, okay, we need to look at the individual as an entire whole. So we developed the 3M method. So metabolic strength training, their metabolic flexible eating strategy, like looking at their food, how they metabolize food, right? How their stress and their sleep affect what they're doing. And then most important, their mindset and belief systems. What do they like, like how they make goals? How do they feel? How do they act when they, mess up, right? Do they have self-sabotaging behaviors? What's going on up here? And I always say the biggest muscle that you're going to work and change is your brain.
Right. So let's kind of go through. You're a mom, obviously. You said you have a 15-year-old and 11-year-old, husband, like, busy career, lots of events, kids events, all sorts of things going on, right? All the things. So, we have a lot of listeners to the show who are kind of in the same situation. So describe to someone listening to this, like, how do you fit it all in? Like, how do you make time for your meal prep? How do you make time for your nutrition, eating the right things, like working out? Like, how do you make time for all this?
So for me, it's about priorities. Completely about priorities. So like I said, so one thing, I have a really good partner. So I work a lot of hours, but I also have a very supportive partner. So what do I prioritize every single day? Most days of the week, I prioritize some kind of movement. So whether it be strength training or working out, like, some kind of walking or something, I do that first thing in the morning. So that's like my priority. I do that first thing in the morning. And while I'm doing that, I listen to some kind of like professional development, like something from like Vince, or something that our coach is doing. Like I re-listen to something. I like to, like, that, I call that like killing two birds with one stone. So I listen to something like that. So I start off my morning, I get like all that done, right? So then so my husband, he takes a kid to the bus stop, and one kid walks. Then I like usually, it depends, like summer, we'll call the school year. So both my kids are in school, and then I work like while they're in school, and I'm really good at managing my time. Like I'm not trying to be funny. Like I'm really good at like working smart, not hard. So like, I mean, I work really hard, but I'm like really good. Like I'll do, I like have certain times where I'll do like a project, and then I talk to clients every single day, like whoever wants, and I do like I get it all done, and then I'll pick up my other son because my other son walks. I do a non-negotiable time with one son every day and time with the other son every day, quality time versus quantity every single day. We eat dinner as a family every single night. And then I always work like after dinner. Like that's just what I like while everybody's like sitting watching TV or whatever, like I will have my computer out while we're watching TV. That is something like I love what I do. Like I don't look at it as work. Like if I'm writing like content, or if I'm like doing like whatever, like it's fun to me. I enjoy what I do very, very much. It doesn't feel like work. Like talking to clients does not feel like work to me, right? Like writing stuff does not feel like work. And also I have a partner now, like I have Sarah, and she does a lot of stuff too. So that has been super helpful in that it's fun. Like it's a lot of fun. And I get outside with one of my kids loves to go outside, but my 15-year-old, his love language is food. So, I do something, or we go on a walk, something like that.
I
Is that
love
helpful?
so much what you just said. I mean, there's so many little tips and hacks in there, right? Like, so making non-negotiable time for each kid, like eating dinner with your family. I mean, the list could go on, but so I guess like, how do you go about like mentally prioritizing things? So I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is like, they're like, I have so many things on my plate. Like, what do I cut out? What do I keep? What do I allocate more time toward? Like, how do you go about like prioritizing things, like as a mother, as a parent, as a business owner, all those things?
I think in 5 years from now, will this matter? So like, yes, your workout will absolutely matter in 5 years from now. I didn't touch on the nutrition. So from the nutrition side, for me, like we get groceries twice a week. So like once on Sunday and then one time another during the week. So for me, I am really, really like simple when it comes to my nutrition. I don't make complicated recipes. The like meals that I share with my clients are very simple because all of us are super busy moms. Most of my clients work a lot. So we don't it's very simple. So I have we do this, first part of the week, and then I'll go shopping again. Like I don't tell them like how often they need to go shopping. It's just when you have goods, foods available, it's easier to make better choices, right? So like I make like delicious, simple food, and my kids eat what I make. Like I don't make two dinners. There's none of that. Like I have 3 go-to breakfasts that I have, 3 go-to lunches that I do, and then I'll have like a different dinner every night. The weekends are a little bit different, but it's very simple. If I want something, I'll eat it. Obviously, like I'm not gonna not eat something that's not sustainable, right? So And that's just like what I teach. But I personally don't like meal prep on Sunday for the whole week. Like that's just not how I want to spend my Sunday, and it's not necessary. So
Got it. Okay. No, I appreciate you expanding on how you do your meal prep, right? Simple recipes. You have kind of your go-tos for breakfast and lunches, eat dinners
yeah.
as a family. Obviously, weekends are a little bit different. And like you said, if you want some, you just go ahead and eat it. So if someone is feeling like stuck or struggling, which I'm sure is a lot of people who you work with, they feel like, well, how can I even possibly begin? Like they're, on the board at school, they're coaching a team, they've got kids, they're volunteering, they're taking care of their parents, like all these things. Like, how does someone even begin to like start when if they're not working out or they're not eating healthy? How does someone even begin to start making themselves a priority?
So there's some things that are non-negotiables, like taking care of your parents is a non-negotiable. But being on the board of your kid's school, like there's like certain things, depends on the school. Like one of my kids' schools is a school for kids with like disabilities and stuff like that. To me, that's like more important than like your average school. Like that, I understand that. However, like you have to, but there's other ways to volunteer your time versus being on the board. And like, it depends. Like your health is the absolute most important thing in your life. You cannot get that back. So that's what I think I need to like be more clear. If the things you do today, that's what matters in 5 years, right? No one's going to care if you were on a board. I mean, I'm sorry, they're not. It sounds like shitty to say and harsh to say, but I'm very transparent. But if you take, like, you're talking about 3 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes, everybody has time for that. If you say you don't have time for that, you don't have a time problem. You absolutely have a priority problem. I mean, that's just facts. And it's like little things. You shouldn't be starting a crazy workout. You should be starting something very, very simple. That's what we do with our clients. Beginners, we start very beginning because we want to build you up, right? We, not knock you down. We want to build you up, but you have to start doing something so that you're mobile. We work with a lot of nurses and doctors. They're like, we see people in the hospital. We don't want to be in a walker. We don't want to be in a wheelchair. We want to be mobile. We want to be able to function. So like, yeah, those kind of things, that's a priority. 30 minutes with your kids versus 30 minutes at the PTA meeting. Like I could be like, for me, it's more important to spend that time with my kid versus be at every like with a bunch of like, I like adults, but like, if I had to pick one, my kid, like I have my son's going to be a sophomore next year. I only have 3 more years until he, like my kids are like my BFFs. So I don't know. And my husband too. So, but I work at those relationships.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you just said there about kind of prioritizing, asking yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Like, looking at, is this something I have to do, and making sure that you do have the right things prioritized. So what is one thing, like now, you mentioned now that you're in your 40s, like what is like maybe like the biggest lesson, either like, life wise, fitness wise, that you've learned maybe since you're in your early 30s?
I think it's that really we think we have all this time, and that's the only thing we can't get back. Like money, you can get back. It's true. If you could, like, you can get back. Like most people that we work with can get that back. And stuff like purses, and I mean, I don't own fancy purses. That's not my personality, but whatever it is that you like, you can get all that back. But your time, and you can't get it back, and like your health, you can't take it for granted. Like you think that things are not going to happen to you. Everybody thinks they're like, what's that word for it? Like they're invincible. And like they're like, well, I saw this person, they smoked for like 50 years and they sat and they like, that's an outlier. Like, and most people I get in the call with, they're like, I want to give myself the best chance at health. Like it's not perfect, but I like, those are my people. Like you want to you give yourself the absolute best chance. Like, what do you want your kids to, like your kids are going to do what you do, not what you say you're going to do, what you do. So like, I feel like that's so important as like raising like 2 boys, like they'll be future men. Like, I just feel like they know like that's what mom and dad do. And that's like, you have the opportunity. Like, I get your parents did it, whatever, but now it's you. It's like, that meme with like, my dad was an alcoholic, two brothers, their dad was an alcoholic. Well, one became an alcoholic and one never touched, a beer. Like, I'm not saying you can't have a drink. I like to have a cocktail every once in a while, but the point is, like, it's up to you. You're not a victim. Nobody's a victim. And that to me is, yeah, like, you have the power to how you respond to things. And I've been at the other side of it. So it wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving me.
Love this. No, I love the perspective that you have about how, you can't get back more time. You can get back other things, but it's really important to prioritize what's important to you. And I want to finish with two questions here. So the first question is, obviously, I think anyone listening to this has gotten a lot of value mentally, even just about what you've talked about so far. So where can someone find out more about you?
So on my Facebook page, like, that's where, just Nirit Roddy. I'm the only Nirit Roddy in the world, so it's super easy. On my page, there is also like my website to find more about me. So if you go to Nirit Roddy, you will find my just go to Nirit Roddy on Facebook. I have a ton of free content that I love to share, and you can private message me from there. And you can also, it has like my email and also my website there. And I'm very open, and like, I think my goal is, like, I always say, like, I just want women to feel beautiful and like confident, and never feel like how I felt when I felt horrible about myself. I don't want anyone to feel that way.
Hmm. That actually kind of perfectly transitions into my last question, which I like to ask, which is, you just mentioned like time, right? We can't get more time. And now let's say, like, we're fast forwarding here, let's say it's the end of your life, you've achieved all that you wanted to achieve. You've done all that you've wanted to do. How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, I just want to be remembered as, like, I want to leave this world making an impact. Like, I want to, like, people remember, like, people don't remember. They always say, like, what people say about how they made them feel. Like, I know that people just feel good about themselves, and like, just transformed, right? Obviously, people, you see my content, you're like, oh, there's so many transformations, of course. But like, in this is people, their beliefs in themselves, like how much they change up here. Like, yes, of course, they're going to get stronger and fitter and leaner and all that stuff. And you'll see, like, there's, we have a ton of that, but like, it's like what people share with me about like how their lives change, like, that is everything. That's what gets me out of bed every single morning. Yeah. And it's relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Building relationships, building impact. Love it all here. And thanks so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us today, Nirit. As I mentioned, I know people are definitely going to get a lot out of this. And thanks so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.